looking and laughing and pointing, this ain't entertainment. About the cages. Get them kids about the cages. Get them kids about the cages. Get them kids about the cages. Oh. Get them kids about the cages. 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 It's kids in the cages. I'm feeling frustrated. People been looking and laughing and pointing, this ain't entertainment. It's kids in the cages. I'm feeling frustrated. People been looking and laughing and pointing, this ain't entertainment.
New video just dropped a few days ago, so I wanted to show it off a little bit. Good. Welcome in, everybody. Jane, it's so interesting. I was looking at the last stream. I was going over the VOD, and I called you Jane as soon as you came in. I didn't realize that the colors were the same, and I just I recognized that the whole last stream that I was talking to you, but I didn't notice that you were using a completely different screen name. Didn't even I don't know how that very obvious thing eluded my attention, but I was like, wait, who is that? Oh, that's Jane. Oh, okay. So welcome in. Good to see you. You said there's no issue with your other account. Is there a particular reason why you're using a different account? I don't really have any qualms. Right. A new chatter that's chatting in my chat is going to be good for my numbers. So, log in all the alts if you want, I guess. Let's figure out first things first, which me, I really do think I like the setup. I think I'm kind of happy with it. I forgot to brush my hair. I never have enough time. So, quick update. I am still extremely overwhelmed with schoolwork. I am still very behind, not anywhere near caught up. But I really want to stream today because of what we're going to be talking about. I can't wait to have the conversations with you all. It's just not only could I not sacrifice the stream today, like I felt like I really needed to do it, but I even stopped doing schoolwork at like 10 so that I could divert 100% of my attention to going over our previous conversation, getting an idea of what we accomplished, marinating on some of those some of the amazingly insightful conversations that we had. So, and that's, I gave myself several hours to get ready for stream instead of like one, which is usually often what I get is I'll get about an hour and 20 minutes before stream. Oh, Street Cat Love, welcome in. It's great to see you. Yeah, thanks. Trying the new angle. I think it looks all right. I think I might keep it. I haven't moved my school stuff around. That doesn't affect you all, but having two different OBS settings, for one for class and one for stream, I have difficulty with OBS as it is. You all have seen my struggle, right? You've seen my my issues. Welcome in, Matt. Good to see you. Welcome in, Eleni. Good to see you as well. I hope everyone's doing well today. I hope that you are all energized and prepared for some deeply philosophical conversations, because we've got some stuff to talk about. Okay, we'll see you in just a minute, Jane, on the other account. Oh, excuse me. So, what's first things first? I also meant to have yeah, that's the one. Okay, when I saw the alt, I was like, wait, that doesn't seem like that was the same username. I like the 1312 though. That highly approve. That's gonna get you know, that.
Fuck the police! They're taking control! We gotta take it back! Everyone get up and let's go!
Yeah, chef's kiss. First things first, I'm the realist. Yeah. Oh, so yeah, no worries, no reason to be sorry. It's good. So, like, it's just gonna take me a minute, because even though I've been preparing, oh goodness, it's warming up in here. Even though I've been preparing for this for a long time, there's a lot of stuff, right? So I guess probably the first thing that we should do is probably pull up the document and take a look at some of the changes. I can finally get rid of that. Something about my new setup is something that I'm not happy with yet. And this is also going to be a problem that's just occurred to me, but we'll navigate that in a minute. So much stuff has happened this week too. And we'll probably, I bet some of the new stuff is going to come up today, but I hadn't planned to talk about too much today. Oh, it's not up yet. Looking at the thing I'm looking at. I also didn't set this up beforehand at all, so is the correct document. It's just a junky. Is that really a word? Did I just make that word up? Janky is what I was looking. Can't. Why can't I do that? There's the aha. Part of my display was hidden from my entirely. Okay. Yeah, I should have noticed that I couldn't see chat. Didn't. I should have noticed that I couldn't see chat. We are at the top. That's what we want. Crunch that up a little bit, I think. Well, that won't matter because we're going to go over this. Okay, thank you all for your patience while I resituate the document. Good. There we go. That's where we want it. Yes, it could derail the entire stream, but as Matt points out, Noisy will be covering the news later today, so that's probably where we'll raid out to, I imagine, if they are going by the time we're done. All right, so yeah. Oh, fantastic, Jane. I haven't checked those out yet, but I will look into that, and that will tie in, I think, really quite well, probably with where we're going to go very next stream, if not the very next stream, within the next stream after that, I would imagine. Good. So the first thing that I want to talk about before we roll on to the video or videos, we'll see if we got time for both, that I want to watch today. Welcome in. Good to have you. Patrick, T-Dent, Rick T-Dent. Good to have you. Yeah, and thank you for showing off the Free Palestine thing. Cool. So the first thing that I want to talk about, right? So in our overall project, I have to be really real. In our overall project, there were a whole lot of feelings that I had about what we were doing and why we were doing it that I wasn't really honest with myself about, right? So, in watching this, our last stream, reviewing myself, I realized how emotionally attached I was about the concepts and ideas that we were dealing with, and it was obvious to me from that outside perspective that it was interfering with my ability to be honest with myself about the reality of the project, right? And in the thing that I think I should be honest with is that I would like for authoritarians to stop calling themselves leftists, and for leftists to stop being authoritarian. That's how I feel about it. That is in no way tied to material reality, because it's entirely possible for people to be leftist and authoritarian, and people literally are. So my feelings about what I would rather don't matter, right? Except that they, for some of the what we were talking about, were interfering with my ability to really be real about this. So I just want to be transparent to all of you. I'm going to talk a little bit more about my my feelings with regard to some of the other things that we talked about as well. But well, where do I want to go with this? Right, and it's just about reflective transparency. This is the kind of thing that I ask my students to do, and it's also a thing that I believe I am not nearly yet practiced enough with doing myself, being self-reflective and self-critical. Okay, why is it that you believe this? Why do you feel that way? Why are you trying to make that square a triangle? Why are you trying to make that square a triangle? Count the sides, right? So this is, yeah, I've been doing that a lot these last few years, and I'm just trying to do the self-critical thing appropriately, and so I'll probably leave this on the document for a while as a reminder to myself that sometimes I need to re-evaluate whether the things that I'm saying reflect material reality, or if they are a reflection of how I'd rather, my ideologies that are not helpful in understanding the material reality and how we get to a utopian tomorrow, right? Which is the whole point, And that's also something that I feel like maybe I kind of lost sight of, that the purpose of our meeting and having these projects and these conversations and talking about this stuff was so that we can move us forward, and so that we can do things that need to be done in the world, right? And instead of being real about that, I was trying to find ways that I could omit authoritarians and authoritarianism from our conversations, from our organizing, and from our leftist spaces. But I can't just do that, right? That's more wishful thinking that is not any way tied to reality, right? So it's just, so the point is that we are supposed to be figuring out how to get to the next steps so that we can get to that utopian tomorrow that we would all like to see, right? What is the next actual step? And in that spirit, I think that changing the direction of our project from a leftist ontology to a socialist ontology is more helpful, right? I would still like to develop some kind of leftist ontology, and I would still like for that to be something that doesn't include authoritarians, but can't, right? So this is a more fruitful way to think about it. This is, I think, a better direction for our efforts, right? And it, regardless of whether or not we would call ourselves socialists, or whether or not we think that socialism is itself good, it is the most closely adjacent step that we can take away from capitalism, right? And this is going back to the conversations that we were having about, you know, what there are no gradients of incrementalism away from capitalism. That idea must be rejected. And if there's substantive pushback that any of you have on that, I would please, right? Please object. But that is how I feel about it. And I think that socialism, that's the direction that we need to aim. And so in that light, right, we've got these definitions established. Jane put them in chat, and I like them so totally that I haven't changed anything about them. That socialism is whenever either the worker or the people both own and control the economic functions of society themselves, right? The proletariat operating the levers of the economy because they are the conditions, right? They are the means of production. They don't really have to seize the means of production. Workers are the means of production, right? And communism is a decommodified and global socialism. So I like these terms because there is a whole world of two good boundaries that we can point to in a far future. And as long as we are looking at those two boundaries and are pointing as close to that direction as we can get, we're on the right track, or the best possible track that we can be, right? And that's, I think, how we ought to think about socialism and the project of trying to move society and people left, is that You know, there is the idealism inherent in Marxism, where there is a utopia at which we are directed. But that we are directed at utopia isn't a mistake, right? We just can't get there today. And if we get anywhere close or anywhere closer, material conditions are better. Right, and that's just categorically true. I think. Main critique. Oh, let me back up. Authoritarians are hard to replace. Often the people that replace them become them. Yes, right. Yes, right. Yeah, that's how that works. Main critique I have of Democrats is they seek to usurp power with better headlines, not protect people from it, not protect people from power whatsoever, right? And that's the active saying that I bring up an awful lot, but I don't really expound upon much. I think that a lot of other streamers that you watch have talked about the active saying exhaustively enough that we know that it doesn't actually accomplish anything. Mere virtue signaling isn't in any way effective in changing people's material conditions. That's not to say that all forms of virtue signaling are. There is some distinction to be made there. As an ethicist, there are 100,000 hairs to be split there. But that's yet again another endeavor that's not going to be really very fruitful or a good use of our time. In general, I don't think. Okay, good. So, but this is something that I'm not sure about, and I would like to get some feedback from you all on this, and I think I want to do that before I move on. I don't want to do so much with the documents today as I did on last stream. I'd like to watch one of my YouTube videos, as terrible and trashy as they look to me now. But there's some interesting ideas that I would like to unpack. And I do want to finally get to the plastic pills video. And it's because we are getting to the title of the stream, which has to do with authority and the establishment of capital T truth. And when I say capital T truth in this instance, right? I probably should have come up with some other term. But what I mean is the narrative, the narrative that is established in the culture and society that becomes the thing that we say, right? In the way that we talk about the truth of climate change, that is a real, verifiable, quantifiable thing that we can point to with evidence and science, but that doesn't matter, right? And in the authority of the science, the authority of the scientists, the authority that they're in, that is supposed to come with the establishment of capital T truths, is overridden by the narrative that, well, there are some scientists who disagree, like, the 0.06 or whatever, and that this gives people license to completely disregard the truth, the authority of the truth. And so that's really kind of what I want to talk about more today, is a look at that relationship between authority and truth and how it becomes distorted by the narrative, for lack of a better term that we can put there. The zeitgeist isn't the word that I want to use. The something. The narrative is going to work as the best placeholder we have for now, I think. When socialist virtue signal, it forces moderates to adopt a more left position, like when right-wing Ed Markey sponsored the Green New Deal and the Green Party wrote this. Yeah. Yes. 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 Exactly, Matt. So that I couldn't have explained it more concisely than by offering that example. That does a really good job of splitting those hairs between mere virtue signaling and the kind of virtue signaling that is an effective way of shifting people's attitudes about a moral situation. Right, good. Yeah. Fantastic. So right, so this is the thing that I have always kind of had this idea, and I haven't examined this idea as critically as I should have. And so here I am. I'm going to do that live on stream, apparently. Is that my assumption has always been that communism, classless, stateless, moneyless society, right? And that socialism is that, but with the state. And this is not necessarily untrue, but it's also not necessarily true. And I kind of hadn't grappled with these ideas well enough, I think. Not that I haven't grappled with the ideas. I've been grappling with these ideas for decades, right? What I mean to say is, I haven't looked at them in this light, because I'm trying to be self-critical today, in this kind of self-critical light. And that led me to this, right? So when we're talking about the transition from socialism to communism, it will probably be the case, right? For us to have that plan of getting to communism, it will probably necessarily be the case that we will have to use mechanisms of the state at some point to get to that stateless spot. But socialism doesn't necessarily have to have a state. Strictly speaking, right? And this is this idea is illustrated by the definition that Jane gave us of what socialism is, right? Because you don't need a state for us to organize ourselves in a way that we have control and access to the levers of society. It's entirely possible for us to create such a state of affairs in a world in which capitalism still exists, right? Theoretically. Probably not, right? And that is how I would think about this. But it's not necessarily the case that socialism is a lack of state, or socialism is a state doing what communism can't do yet. Is the state necessary? Well, what is the state then? No, I would argue that the state is not necessary. What do we need from the state, and what could those things do? And could we do those things without the state? Yes. And this is exactly why people like Anarch spend so much time talking about building dual power structures. That is precisely the reason why we need to establish power structures that are horizontally informed that we can use to create pockets of freedom from the oppression of the capitalist state in which we live. That is exactly the solution, right? So, and it's not necessary for a state for us to do that. I've been muted, but IRRC Lenin uses the definition of state as tool of class domination, which would ideally be used to suppress the bourgeoisie under... What do you mean you've been muted? Muted. State as a tool of class domination. Which would ideally be used to suppress the bourgeoisie under socialism. Oh, yeah. I can't see my thing. Thank you for letting me know, Street Cat Love. I don't know how to fix this. It's really kind of frustrating. Let me... No, that's not the right thing. Okay, let's go over here and take a look at this. A lot of dropped frames. Looks like my connection is good right now. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, never mind. That's okay. Now we have to read that. Wait, what the heck? Windows. I wish Windows would stop trying to help. I wish that Windows would just stop trying to help, because it is not helpful. Okay. We got that back. Looks like our connection's doing okay now. I don't have a way to keep an eye on it. I'll have to figure that out. I need to get a thing. You all know what I mean. I need to get a program that moderates my connection and displays it for me. Is what I need, my thing. Just the video, I hear you pretty reliably. That's what happened in the last stream too. When I was watching the VOD, there was a part where the video was extremely choppy, but the audio came through pretty clear and consistent the whole time. Hopefully my audio is a little bit better today. I just spiked again. I realized that I had the volume on the mic a little too high, actually. So, right. Since you're watching the Word doc, it doesn't make much of a difference. We'll get a slight delay to buffer after a few minutes. Right, good. Good. Oh, I meant I wasn't listening for a few minutes. Ah, you were on mute. I gotcha. Thank you for the explanation. I appreciate that. But no, this is, so they're, want to take a little bit more time looking at this. And because I want to evaluate whether I like the adaptation of this definition of state as tool of class domination, which would ideally be used to suppress the bourgeoisie under socialism. I think that this gives us a good place to have a conversation from. I don't like the idea of establishing a new kind of oppressive system to replace the old kind of oppressive system. But there are semantics to this, right? Where it might only be oppression from the viewpoint of the bourgeoisie, who now have to give up their spoils, who now have to share with the rest of us, which isn't really classified as oppression, but right. So maybe there's some conversation to be had there. Maybe there's some nuance, but the language as it is, it gives me some pause. Right. Welcome back, Eleni. Good to have you back again. Good. And I show you something. Someone showed me with like little context. Okay. That reminds me, I completely forgot about the first time chatter who came in and dropped that link. I never even checked it out. The definition I operate with for the state is the body that claims a monopoly over the functions of society. See, and that's a really good definition of Jane. That's a really good definition of state, Jane. Let me finish the sentence before I try to move on. That's a really good definition of state, Jane, but it's one that I have trouble using as an anarchist whose goal is to abolish the state. So, we've had this conversation before, I think, where you envision a state which is a non-hierarchical, non-oppressive structure where there is a system in place that people get to manipulate that system, and that system organizes how people work together in cooperation. That thing I don't have a problem with. But that thing I wouldn't call the state. And I'm not sure, right, with the language, I'm not sure what I'm trying to say here. In that case, I say it is required. Right. Yes. And according to that definition, Jane, of what a state is, then yes, I would agree with Matt that it would be required. Well, and the thing with being an anarchist, Matt, is that anarchists vary on this widely, right? There are some anarchists who don't consider their goal is to eliminate the state. Their goal is just to eliminate all forms of oppression, and some people see the state as, in Jane's conception, as a tool that we can use to accomplish an oppressive-less state of affairs in the world. I have issues with that framing, because it's still an apparatus over and above us. But I'm not anywhere near ready to split those kind of hairs, right? And this is the kind of conversation that we have when we are close to socialism, right? When our material conditions have led us to steps such that we are really close to actually achieving socialism. And at that point, it's important for us to have these kinds of conversations, right? We should talk about conceptions of the state and ways that we can center power that are not going to work like a magnet to center power, because that's usually the issue that I have with states in any form. Is it still a form of centralized power, and all it takes is somebody with a little bit of know-how and gumption, and they can lever some of those to their own advantage so that they can have a power dynamic over others. And that's something that I'm not sure is inevitable. And again, not ready to have that deep dive into splitting those hairs. That's a conversation that we should have when we are close to accomplishing socialism. Not advocating for a body that claims a monopoly over any function of society, though. Right, well, fluid and dynamic is, I believe, an implied. I assume that is an implied part of your definition, though clarification is absolutely helpful in putting clarity to the idea, rather than just thinking around the concepts. Thinking thoroughly through the concepts is really awesome and helpful, so thank you. State doesn't exist without people. The people. Fascism is trying to make people believe they cannot exist without a state. I'm not sure I understand this. The state doesn't exist without the people. Okay. Period. Fascism is trying to make people believe they cannot exist without the state. Right. Address the first part first. Right. Okay. Address the first part first. State doesn't exist without the people. Correct. Right. Because it is comprised of people, and people's belief in the institution is what gives it authority. That's what we're talking about today. People's belief in the institution of the state gives the state authority. Right. So yes, state doesn't exist without the people. And fascism, the second claim, fascism is trying to make people believe they cannot exist without the state. All forms of statism, from an anarchist perspective, generally, all forms of statism are going to be itself an effort to convince the people that it is necessary for their function. That's what the state does, as its function primarily is convincing the people who support it that they need it for all of their functions. Right? That's why you can't do anything in the United States, as a good example, without government permission. You can't drive without a license. You can't cross borders without some kind of passport. You can't just collect water on your own property. You can't own property without the government's approval. You can't do anything unless you go through the steps of bureaucracy, right? This is government making itself indispensable in our lives. We cannot exist without it, and that's the way that it wants it, right? It won't exist as an institution if it's not necessary for our survival, for our existence. So it, as an institution, must make that its primary priority. This is a Foucault concept, right? The way that power maintains itself, the way that power is because what it does is it protects its power. And that's the function of power, is to protect and insulate itself from accountability or from questionability, right? This is I need to get caught up in chat. I don't want to do too many asides, but this is the same idea of beyond good and evil. Nietzsche's beyond good and evil. When we stop questioning whether or not that thing is good or evil because we assume it's necessary, right? That's a very dangerous thing that humans just do all of the time. Even if you try to abolish the state in that definition, someone trying to do the service becomes the state. Yes. In a cyclical, forever kind of cascade, not advocating for body that claims. Oh, right. Oh, no worries, Eleni. Does power have to exist for a society to function? Yes. What happens to the honor system? I know America hasn't had one in a long time. Power does have to exist for a society to function. Biopower is how we do things, period. That's just, but concentration of power, I think, is what you mean. And that would be the question, right? That's the splitting hairs of the anarchist claim that Jane is making about the state being able to be non-oppressive, and my reluctance to admit that the state can do such a thing, right? And that splitting of the hairs that we don't have to worry about right now because we're not close enough to the step of socialism. But that's the question. Does power have to exist does a concentration of power have to exist for society to function? That would be the question. With regard to honor system, I'm not sure that it's ever existed in America since the founding of the United States, and before, right? Since Europeans began the colonization of this continent, right? We haven't had any kind of rule of honor system among the colonizers. The people that we were trying to eradicate did, right? Let's not erase those cultures and that they existed and that they had robust moralities and philosophical conceptions of the world and themselves and how to fit in the milieu of existence, because they did. Federalism would be, in theory, the opposite of fascism. And that's... I would say not dialectically the opposite, no. I think I disagree with federalism would be, in theory, the opposite of fascism. I think that they are... No. I was going to say that they might be mutually exclusive, but I don't think that they are either. You could have a fascist federalism. Yeah, their Street Cat Love. Has it ever had that? LandBack, yeah, good. Every impersonal relationship in community has power dynamics. Right. It's unavoidable. That's the perceived authority that the state provides. Yes, exactly, Matt. Right. So what it is that the way that things get done in the world of others, in the plurality is the word that I like to use. The world of others. The way that things happen in that plurality is by the implementation of biopower. What the state does is it focuses, it harnesses biopower and focuses biopower. And when it does so, it does so in a way that makes itself necessarily indispensable to the process. Right? It is the case that humans can just do whatever they want to. Arrange themselves, organize themselves. We can all collectively decide to stop paying rent. We can all collectively decide to stop obeying laws. We can do that. That is potentially possible. But that freedom isn't a realizable freedom, because the way that we have been conditioned to accomplish things in the world is by appealing to the state, right? If you have a problem, you go to the police, or you go to the courts, or you file a lawsuit. You have to do formal things through the formal government, and that's the only recourse you have. Any appeal to self-help you exercise will be met with punishment. It's illegal for you to seek self-help, to solve your own problems. And it is so on purpose, right? So that the state maintains that concentration of power. People should be able to function without state. So if something happens to the state, people aren't walking around confused. Well, a good example would be the Russian Revolution, quote unquote. I think it's really funny that we call the Russian Revolution a revolution when really it was just the collapse of an empire. The abdication of the Tsar left a huge power vacuum, and for all of those people's entire lives, nobody had to figure out how to do anything, how to run anything, how to manage anything, how to administrate anything, because everything was done by the Tsar. Right? So when the Nicholas II, who was doing an awful job of being the Tsar, abdicated, it was in a crumbling empire, and it left this huge power vacuum, and nobody had any idea how to do anything, right? And that what Lenin had to pick up was the pieces, the infrastructure of a fallen, collapsed empire, and tell those people how to deliver goods to each other and how to work together in ways that didn't require money, right? Because they didn't know how to do the things without coercion, without somebody to tell them, without a manager to manage them. And that's a very real truth that we have to come to accept. And this is, let me go back to the document real fast. I've already spent a lot more time on the document than I intended, and that's good. Right? This is that we cannot engage others in the struggle. That there's not a way that we can help others recognize that they ought to struggle. One's resistance of their oppression must be something that they undertake. Right? It must be. They must be self-directed. They must know how to be free before they can be free, right? And there'll be a learning process in that, a learning curve, for sure. All civil powers root back to the state. I might mean domination. And I think that you were asking to me, talking about the concentration of power. I think, Jane, if I've got my timing correct in scrolling up, that question, you mean domination, the concentration of power. Yes, that's what I mean. And I see those things as probably categorically two sides of the same thing, interlinked. Maybe not two sides of the same thing, but necessarily interlinked. But I would love to be wrong about that. When it comes to that, whether or not we can organize formal, semi-permanent structures that don't become tools of oppression, it is something that I would like to believe is true. That's why I'm an anarchist, right? But I don't know what that looks like, to be perfectly honest. I have some imagination, but I'm starting to be more critical about my imagining of utopia, because some of these ideas that I thought I had thought through very thoroughly are still ideas that I haven't thought through thoroughly enough. Getting some lag, so I'm going to give the computer a second to figure out what's going on. Wow, that's the PC that's lagging, despite the fact that it says that I'm under 3% CPU. That might not be tracking my RAM use. Anyway. Oh, and I need to stop doing this because I can't just put it back. Irritatingly enough. Yeah, something's going on. With my computer. Maybe my mouse has just died? Maybe it's not a problem with the computer and it's a problem with the mouse. That would be a really terrible reason for me to have to end stream because my mouse ran out of batteries. I can't. Okay. We have control yet? Still don't have control yet. Y'all just give me a minute. I'm not sure what's going on here. I don't think it's my computer. Mouse seems to be working now. Can I move this out of the way? I don't know why I have to keep doing this. Okay, so we'll have to make some changes to the new setup. I don't understand why this is still a problem. Let's try something. Give me chat right there. Thank you. You know what? That's still gonna do. I'm sure it's still gonna do that. And then not do the other thing, and then maybe that'll be fine. Sorry, everyone, for that. This is derailing entirely. This can go away. That wasn't supposed to be up anyway. Where did my document? There we go. Are we LandBack? Okay, yes. Ooh, yeah, I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden my computer started having all of the problems. I couldn't do anything. Okay. Catching back up. Federalists in the American political party, historical sense, are fascists. Yes, it's the, but I mean they don't necessarily have to be better, you know. But they were, yes. It's the same body of power and theory manifesting today. Yes, that I would completely agree with that. That especially here in America, Federalists are fascists. I think that what you're talking about, there is always an authority, but does that authority have to be oppressive? Like the authority on transporting goods would be a person who knows the most about it because they know the most about it. It doesn't mean that they have to oppress the others, right? Well, and it doesn't mean that the others have to listen. right? So that the kind of authority that we want is that when somebody steps up and says, I have something authoritative to say, other free individuals who have the choice to dissent say, I agree with your authority, right? That's what we want is people who aren't forced by a state or by rules or by laws or by that this person was established in some kind of official capacity in an official role, right? We don't want any of that. We want a state of affairs where individuals can say, hey, there's this thing that needs doing. Let's do this. I know how. Who would like to help me? And other people would follow that leader who is an authority because they have taken upon themselves to begin this project. And in so doing, they'll probably, if we are living in the kind of utopia that we're hoping, then the other people will expect that at any point they can also step up and say, I believe something different. And I believe that because of this authoritative reason. And that leader who started the project will go, that's a good idea. I defer to the authority of your claim on the basis of it being a good idea for us to do. Not because you're in charge, not because we feel like we need to do what you said, but because the words themselves that demonstrate your credibility, demonstrate your authority, demonstrate that you understand, know, and have something worthwhile to say, right? That's the world that we want. Made an alteration to my conception of the state. The state is the body that claims a monopoly of structural power. Right. Right. So, good. I like this. I think that it would be helpful, right? Because we've got this established. I don't know how well established, but this definition of the state. Oh, I didn't even realize there was a. Come on, computer. And juxtaposed with this. Right, and this is going to start giving us some boundaries in the way that I think of aiming towards these, right? Socialism and communism off in the distance. This gives us some helpful boundaries that we can shoot toward when we are trying to conceptualize and talk about conceptions of state. Is it that causing my let me something is interfering with my ability to manipulate everything on my computer, on the OBS and my chats and document, and despite the fact that I don't have anything running that's not supposed to, and everything is well below CPU is at 20%, memory's at 54%. I'm not even using it's got to be the internet somehow. I don't know why that would mess with my mouse though. It's starting to become a little bit miserable. But I'm gonna try and soldier forth a little bit more because there's some more stuff in the document that I want to get to today. So parties often hold names opposite of their true meaning, like how so many claim to be socialist but only serve capitalists. Right. Yeah, that's yes. And along that same lines, this is the other thing that I don't really quite get. What is the difference between Soc Dem and Dem Soc? And I want to say I've got 2 gigs of RAM. I think that's what doesn't tell amount I have. I think I've got 2 gigs, but I have to double check. It's been a while since I've looked at my specs. I guess I can up real fast. No, 32 gigs of RAM, excuse me. I've got 32 gigs. I said 2 gigs of RAM. I've got 32 gigs of RAM. Good. But you all are answering this other question. Good. Thank you. Soc Dem is American Democrat. Democratic socialism is like Switzerland. Right. Better or worse is not helpful in this context, Eleni. I'm not trying to bust your chops at all. But that doesn't at all get at what I mean. What I'm trying to understand are what are the essential differences which distinguish one from the other, and that one is a little bit materially better can't be the answer. If it is somewhat materially better, there'll be something about it, some distinguishing feature which marks it as distinct. Both are the same ideology, though. Uphold capitalism while giving treats. Soc Dem is liberalism. But how is Norway different than regular liberalism? How is Norway not perpetuating capital in the neoliberal sense? Workers owning the means of production is what socialism is, right? Social democracy is not liberalism, right? I guess this is related to the question of the Second International, where many split from the label of social democrat. Right? Yes. That's what I'm trying to get to. What are the ideological differences that would force people to no longer work together because your position is so detached, so different than my position that we can no longer be comrades? What is that difference? Soc Dem hate workers owning the means of production. Dem Socs don't care. Okay. So let me look at, the document went away. Oh, and I need to, before I forget, Jane, I've got a question for you too. I meant to bring this up like at the beginning. When you first brought this up, that we should stop saying dictatorship, I made some assumptions about what it is that you meant, and then like went off on that tangent with assumptions about what you had meant, and upon reconsideration, I probably should have asked for clarification, because I don't actually know that that's what you meant when you were saying that we should probably stop saying dictatorship. So if you could clarify, that would be awesome. Before I forget again. So let's socialists hate everything except workers owning the means of production, period. Right. Norway is a social democracy. And in wait. Oh yeah. Social democrat in a neo-colonial sense. Put socialism into scientific Marxism. Wait, what? Put socialism into scientific Marxism. Socialism. Okay. Hakeem Jeffries is a social democrat. AOC, and that's okay. So good. So AOC is a Dem sock. So what is different about AOC's position than the Norway position? This, in particular, is not a social democrat, but AOC is a social democrat. I don't keep up with these, so thank you for the clarification. Or whichever, whatever Hakeem Jeffries calls himself isn't really going to get to the heart of this. I don't think. And I'm not trying to hate on anything. I'm trying to understand what are the ideological differences. Because, and that's with the Norway model, with the Denmark model, with the other democratic socialist countries, they are still facilitating capital. They are still capitalist countries who are states whose primary function is maintaining the status quo of capitalism. And they maintain a welfare state which enables capitalism. That's what the Norway model does. It doesn't move us away from capitalism. Ever. The Norway model, the Nordic model, will not lead us away from capitalism. It is capitalism. Also, I want to make a quick aside that when I was listening to my last VOD or watching my last VOD, I come across as very angry and very assertive and very sure, and none of that's true. I'm just a loud person. None of that's true. I'm not angry or assertive, or I don't think that I'm right. I'm not trying to insist. It's just the way I talk. See, in that I think democratic socialism is social democracy with a new label. I think that that's not an inaccurate claim. Now, there might be people who hold fundamental differences and understand that there are fundamental differences. But I still think that Jane was probably right, that there are people who call themselves this, just assuming a new label without real comprehension of the difference of the bandwagons, if there's a difference there at all. Good. Let's check this out. Let's see what Red Cyber Dragon has to say. No, absolutely. I think that this is, yeah, I'm just an animated person. I don't think I'm right. I'm not trying to like be But I really, when I was listening to myself in the VOD, I was like, wow, I sound like I'm fired up, like I'm trying to convince people that I'm right. And really what I'm not. I don't feel like I'm right. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. Is Bernie and Biden the same? Good. Right. So the difference with Biden is neoliberal, in my view, neoliberal with no concern whatsoever whether or not we have social safety nets, right? And AOC is a neoliberal who thinks that we should have social safety nets, right? And to me, that is not a historically, materially significant difference. It is a materially significant difference for people who live in their districts, perhaps, right? Because AOC hasn't actually been very successful in establishing a lot of social safety nets even in her own districts. Not entirely unsuccessful. Not trying to say that she has not accomplished anything, but oh, I thought this was a link to a clip. Was that not a link to a clip? Oh yeah, no, oh yeah, I misunderstood what was going on there. Yeah, no, Cyber Red Dragon's cool. I like them, and that's, maybe I'll go into their stream and poke them some, you know, just not try to be pushy or anything, right? I don't know what I'm talking about here. And that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I'm not, yeah. Kyle Beluski is on the left, but how far does that really go? Well, that's not a name I think I'm familiar with, so I'll check that one out. Well, Biden wasn't even left in words. Matt, that's, in my opinion, Biden has always been at best right center, right? Maybe in the center, but if we give Biden any latitude at all, any credibility, if we give any kind of forgiveness, whatever, center is the best that we can say about Biden. Probably right-leaning center. Yeah, LARP is left. Yeah, right. You said up there, full right-winger. Yeah. If we're being charitable, to Biden, then maybe somewhere in the center. But that's the thing, right? So here's another question, and I don't really want to push this question hard, because I certainly don't have an answer. But this is something that I'd like us to start thinking about. So, let's think about, right, the difference between Bernie and Biden. No, let's do it this way. So, I would argue, right? I'm going to make an argument. How good an argument it is, I don't know. We'll see. I would argue that the New Deal implemented by FDR saved capitalism. I believe historically that the New Deal implemented by FDR saved capitalism from entire collapse. So, if that statement is true, it would have been better had the New Deal not been implemented. But the reality of that claim, the New Deal saved hundreds of thousands of Americans from starving and from homelessness and from destitution. historically, right? So, right, from our perspective, looking back on the past, it would be better if FDR had not passed the New Deal. But anybody in America who was at the time arguing against the implementation of the New Deal would be a dick. But that would be an asshole. Both of these things are true. So, this is kind of where I am on the Denmark and Norway and its distinction, its essential characteristics being different enough from just capitalism that I don't know that there is that it's worthwhile, right? In that context of, yes, that's it. Yes, which is which is an uncomfortable position to be in, because as I said a number of times on the previous streams, I don't want to naysay the DSA, right? I don't want to talk trash about their strategies. I don't know personally anybody that's in, right? So I can't make claims about their attitudes or the kinds of world that they want to build. But I have a hard time with a strategy that at the end of the day is still protecting capitalism. And that's my beef. That I'm just trying to work out that nuance in trying to understand really how I feel about that. And whether there is a meaningful distinction for democratic socialism and socialist democrats, and if that's a material difference that we should be clued into for a particular reason. Or can we assume that both of those categories are roughly the same and move on from that? Is there more nuance? Is there value to establishing some kind of nuance? Because if there's value to establishing nuance, I'm a hair splitter all day. That's what I'm here for. Is that right? Red Cyber is different. He's trying to go for socialism, and that's a large part of why I'm trying to have this conversation, is because I believe there might be comrades who are engaged in a kind of struggle against oppression, and that struggle might not be as effective for them, right? But right, that I can't look at somebody else's struggle and tell them that the way that they struggle is inadequate. I don't know them. I don't know the material conditions. I don't know their intellectual capacity. I don't know what's intellectually, epistemologically available to them, what's metaphysically available, right? I don't know people's conditions. I can't look at somebody else and say your struggle is inadequate or misdirected, because I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just flailing against my fetters too, as best I can. Yes, it'd be cool if they ran a third-party civic and stop voting harm reduction. Yes, 100% agree with that. Honestly, I like a lot of the members in it more than I do in the Republicans, right? But like you say, you can save the world or be perfect. See, and that's the situation that we are kind of in, right? That's very accurately the situation that we're in. Is we can save the world or try to be perfect, and we can't do both. DSA has the boots on the ground to make an effective third party. Absolutely, I think that's true. There's a lot of biopower in the DSA, right? They both engage in electoral politics, so I reject both. And that's Jane and I are on the same page there. I don't believe that electoral politics is a useful vehicle for stopping our steady descent into fascism. We have a few very immediate problems. Descent into fascism, that the world is coming to an end ecologically speaking because of climate change. Right? These are very immediate threats that can't wait. DSA is locked into this reform thing, and like I said on the last stream, if they feel like they can do something, maybe they understand something about their material conditions that I don't. This is why I don't spend time trying to talk trash or naysay of the activities of other leftists, even if I don't think that it's well directed. Because if they are successful, that would be good. I don't know that they can be successful, but if they are successful, that would overall be good, right? And I wouldn't be mad about their successes in that regard at all. It would be good. Looking for the socialist wave in France post-68. They were never able to effectively address colonialism, so I am hesitant to think DSA would be different. Yeah. That is a really good example, too. And one that includes Michel Foucault. So I do reference Michel Foucault an awful lot, and history remembers the socialist wave in '68, and that Foucault was a large part of the reason why that wave wasn't successful. Though I don't know enough about the history, the goings on, that I can make a real claim. Just that's something that I've heard. I could say that that's something that the CIA specifically said in one of their reports about the wave in France at the time, was that it was probably going to be fine. The CIA didn't have to worry about it because the intellectuals who were spearheading, right, who were vanguarding, were all bickering amongst themselves, and they were splitting hairs about this same kind of thing. It was the same thing that Eleni said, right? They were so focused on making everything perfect pedantically that they stopped doing things in the street. They stopped doing demonstrations, and they stopped doing the stuff, and they just stood around arguing instead. Who's to say that DSA members aren't aren't fighting on two fronts? Right, and yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a fair point too, right? We haven't had a diversity of tactics conversation in a while, so that might be a good way to cap off our discussion. Didn't get to the videos again today, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't. This was a fantastic stream so far. No regrets. No regrets. So the diversity of tactics. The idea behind diversity of tactics has to do with the fact that oppression is multifaceted. There's not just one way that you're oppressed, right? And this is, we talk about class consciousness, and class consciousness is the class struggle is but one way in which we are oppressed. we're oppressed in a myriad of different ways, right? Whether it's gender oppression or it's racial oppression, or right, that there are many different ways that we are all impacted by our impression. And for us to be successful, we have to combat all of those all at the same time. We can't prioritize one head of oppression, because if we do so, we are working against ourselves in another direction. What we need to be successful is to combat all of the facets of oppression all at the same time, which means that no one of us can do all of those things. It's going to take a whole bunch of people who are dedicated towards a whole lot of different kinds of ends, for a whole, motivated by a whole host of different kinds of reasons, for the kinds of telos that each of them would like to accomplish. For us to be successful, we need a diversity of tactics. And nobody is so wise or knowledgeable or has such a good material analysis that they would be able to identify every single facet of oppression influencing everybody else, right? This is why we have to let other people fight their own battles and support them when they do, right? If people are working against the status quo, and I guess that might be a good way to think about the initiatives of the DSA to undermine the Democratic Party. It will disrupt the status quo, regardless, right? Even if it's an entirely unsuccessful, entirely fruitless endeavor, it will destabilize the status quo. It will make changes in the material world. What those changes are, I'm not clairvoyant. I can't tell. I don't know. And it doesn't make sense for me to be opposed to their actions or their activity or their direction just because I don't see that as a useful endeavor, right? That's what a diversity of tactics means, that I can be engaged in my struggle in the things materially that I think are matter to me. And when I see other people who are engaged in their own struggle, don't fight against them. That's what a diversity of tactics means, right? That we understand that we all need to be doing a bunch of different things. And we want to be organized and coordinated and work together in some ways, but we can't all be working towards the same ends because we need an endless number of ends achieved all at the same time. But that's why a diversity of tactics is necessary. Diversity of tactics, not necessarily diversity of praxis. Huh. Huh. Yeah, that works really good. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that at all. I like that a lot. That could be a pretty good saying. Good. It's basically like Trotsky versus Lenin. I mean, it's funny, like that analogy has popped up into my head quite a few times. When I was getting ready for stream, quite a few times throughout the stream. Yeah, that is a huge deal breaker. I'm not getting in the tent with somebody who does not support LGBTQ rights, right? Simply. And there's nobody else is either, right? You can be in a tent by yourself because that's how that's going to work. Sometimes you can use your enemies if their beliefs aren't so repulsive that it turns you off. Oh, if they are. Oh, I know what I think I understand what you mean. Use your enemies. You can sometimes use your enemies. I don't have a good response to that, which is what I mean is, it seems like there's something there. Something's tickling my brain and telling me that there's something wrong with that. But I believe it may also be dogmatic ideologies which are informing these suspicions that I have about use of others. I mean, it's for me, as an ethicist, there's the deontological imperative of not using others as a mere means. And I think that that's kind of a necessary requirement for the kinds of actions and activities that I believe will a better world. And that I believe that using others as mere means to accomplish a better world makes a world in which people are used as mere means to accomplish things, and I don't think that that's good. I would rather not include that kind of tactic in my means ends unity. I, however, don't want to be dogmatic in my rejection of any kind of tactic. Right? That's one of the things that has spawned this conversation in the first place, right? Tenekoe, Kimatara, welcome in. Enemy says something good, praise them when they say something very good, but make it clear on what you agree with them. Right. If you're talking about a broken clock, who's right? Right. Point out that it's a broken clock. Good. Right. That I think. Well, and that's too. There's lots of ways that we might use, and there are other ways that we might use which don't involve using somebody as a mere means, right? We might use somebody's argument, or we might use somebody's position, and I think that's what you were initially saying in the first place too. But like there was just that something tickle in the back of my brain that wouldn't let me just say, yeah, okay, right? That hesitation. Good. All right. Kamatara, you're just in time for me to be wrapping up the stream. I think I'm about to end it. But it's great to see you. I hope you're doing well. It's good to see you all. This is what I needed. Was to work, because we didn't just banter around some ideas, right? I feel like we all have gained clarity into our own positions and our own understanding of these things. Even where we have disagreements, that's still good. And that's still, please continue to show up and please continue to disagree with me and with each other. That's good. That's how we be productive and help each other grow and learn. If we all showed up and just went along with what the others were saying, none of us would be being free and none of us would be helping anybody else out, right? it would be an exercise in masturbation where we all just show up and felt good about ourselves, but nothing was ever accomplished, right? And I don't want to do that. I want to do stuff. And we did. We did stuff today. We really got into the weeds, worked through some very complicated ideas, have scratched the surface on a whole bunch of other ideas that we're going to have to dive into and really get into. So what a fantastic stream today. Sometimes your enemy says to be, oh wait, okay to point out something. Your enemy says to be like, yeah, this, but everything else, no. Yeah. Well, the guy like Nick Fuentes told his audience to vote Democrat. That is just really wild. But Nick Fuentes is, right. This is one of those things where if you're trying to figure out the rationality, stop. Just stop. Right. Nick Fuentes is an enigma. Their shittery knows no bounds. Right. So we can't really figure out what's going on there. The wheels aren't turning correctly in the first place. Yeah. Good. Good. Yeah, I think this has been very productive. Good. Let me find a raid target to raid out in. And I will not forget to check those things that were posted in the Discord. I did not get to the video that you posted, Eleni, today, but I'll take a look at it. And Jane, thank you for letting me know that you posted some things in the Discord. I'll take a look at those too, and probably include them in a future stream. That's what I would imagine. Oh no, I was hoping that Noisy would be on by now, but he hasn't started streaming yet. Just a graph? Oh, no worries. Yeah. Sorry I didn't get to it then. But like I said, it'll probably pop up on a future stream. Oh, because I'm in the wrong screen. That's why I can't get the screen to show me the thing that I want it. Let's see. No. I'll have to check that out later. But we're not going to do that right now. Let's go into Ray K. I think would be. Do we want to do Ray K? I could also go into. Oh, they're just watching Hassan. Yeah, you know what? I'm done trying to find. We're just gonna raid into DJ Che. Decision made. We're just gonna raid into DJ Che. They're a comrade, and we like to give them support because they do a good job of giving us support. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you for being here. everybody, thank you for all of the fantastic input and the progress. I think I have any other announcements or things that I want to talk. We did it. We most of it. All right, cool. Thank you. My brain needed this. Thank you, other people, for being there, for being here, for showing up and helping me. Right. Thank you for the help you all have given me today. I cannot express any more the gratitude that I have, really, genuinely. I appreciate it. Appreciate the heck out of you all. And until the next time I see you, be excellent to each other.